UN report reveals that nearly 19,000 civilians in Iraq were killed over a 22-month period starting in January 2014. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas says he opposes violence and killing of anyone, regardless of their race or ethnicity, as Israeli security forces arrest the Palestinian suspected of murdering an Israeli woman in her home on Sunday evening. And for only the second time in his career, Rafael Nadal suffers a first-round defeat in a Grand Slam tournament. Good afternoon, you're watching I-24 News. According to a UN report released today, nearly 19,000 Iraqi civilians have been killed between January 2014 and October 2015. The number of wounded is double that amount. The report calls the civilian death toll staggering and describes in detail killings carried out by the Islamic State group, including by beheading, shooting, burning alive, bulldozing, and throwing people off buildings. A short while ago, we were joined by Carl Juncker, research fellow at Tel Aviv University, who spoke about the situation on the ground.
Since the Islamic State's incursion into Iraq in June 2014, as this report shows, the number of displaced people, attacks on civilians, death and destruction has just increased. And it doesn't look like there's any sign of letting up, especially as the Iraqi government mounts its offensives in places like Ramadi, Mosul, and Fallujah. It's not clear. Shiite militias are also known to conduct attacks on, reprisal attacks on civilians, Sunni civilians. But again, the targeting of civilians from both sides does occur and is known to occur, but it's difficult to say what the breakdown would actually be.
Libya's UN-brokered National Unity Government announced its formation today under a disputed deal aimed at ending years of violence. The Unity Government, led by a businessman, Fayez al-Sarraj, comprises 32 ministers after the United Nations called on the country's lawmakers to endorse the new administration. The North African country has been in chaos since the ousting of longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi back in 2011. And in his first public comment since the murder of Israeli woman Daphna Meir in her home on Sunday, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said yesterday that he opposed violence or killing of anyone, regardless of their racial or ethnic background. This as Israeli security forces say they have caught the Palestinian attacker suspected of killing Meir in the West Bank settlement of Othniel. Following the terror attack, the assailant fled to the South Hebron Hills and remained at large until now. Our reporter Yoav Borowitz is in the area. He filed this report.
Good afternoon. We're outside the Meir family residence here in Othniel. This is the house, this is the spot where Daphna Meir was stabbed to death 2 days ago. The family is now sitting Shiva here at the house, and just a short while ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Security Minister Ya'alon and Education Minister Bennett left the house. They all visited the family on the Shiva. Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he can see a lot of inspiration, he can take a lot of courage out of this family. We are also very close to Bet Imra, where Morad Adais, the murderer, was captured a few hours ago while sleeping. This is, a few hundred meters from here to the Arab villages nearby. We can also see here the house where Morad Adais hidden and waited for the Meir family before coming and stabbing Daphna Meir in front of her children. This is exactly here. So we're here in Othniel. The feelings are very, very grave. 13 years there was not a terror attack inside this settlement, but now the people here told me that they feel unfree. They feel that the country is not providing enough defense, enough security. Also this morning, Education Minister and head of Abait HaYehudi party, Naftali Bennett, said that the Israeli government lacks creativity, lacks courage in the way of battling terror. So there is harsh criticism from Bennett to Prime Minister Netanyahu, but they are here together visiting the Meir family. We will be here throughout the day following all developments.
Meanwhile, the EU reiterated that it will stick to its controversial position to label products from the settlements in the West Bank blocks it considers illegal under international law. In response, the Israeli Foreign Ministry accused the EU of holding Israel to a double standard. I-24 News reporter Maya Margit has more.
A day of harsh words for Israel. The European Union on Monday said it would continue to make a distinction between Israel and lands captured since the Six-Day War in 1967. Foreign ministers from the bloc's 28 member states reiterated the decision to require products from the settlements to be labeled as such, thereby reaffirming an earlier resolution. Israel's foreign ministry welcomed the softened resolution, which it said came as a result of intense diplomatic efforts, but argued the EU, quote, continues to treat Israel with a double standard. It added that the responsibility of the Palestinian Authority for the current stalemate has so far been ignored. The EU's guidelines on labeling settlement products were first unveiled in November and immediately drew criticism from Jerusalem. While the EU does not see the move as a boycott, it has been slammed by the whole Israeli political spectrum. Opposition leader Isaac Herzog said labeling products from beyond the Green Line differently would ultimately only serve to reinforce the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement. Yair Lapid, head of the centrist Yesh Atid party, meanwhile called it problematic. The thorny issue of labeling re-emerged just as the Jewish state was on the receiving end of another jab, this time from an unexpected source. Speaking at the Institute for National Security Studies, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Dan Shapiro heaped unprecedented criticism on Israel's policies in the West Bank.
Too many attacks on Palestinians, lack of vigorous investigation or response by Israeli authorities, too much vigilantism goes unchecked, and at times there seem to be two standards of adherence to the rule of law, one for Israelis and another for Palestinians.
Shapiro's comments along with the EU statement come amid a wave of violence in the West Bank, with Palestinians carrying out attacks on civilians inside Jewish settlements on an almost daily basis. As the violence shows no signs of subsiding, it seems Israel's policies in the West Bank will continue to come under fire.
And moving now to Pakistan, where a suicide bomber blew himself up close to a police checkpoint in the northwest of the country today, killing at least 10 people and wounding more than 20, according to officials. Among the dead were at least 5 police officers and a journalist. And in finance, China's economy is slowing down. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the Chinese gross domestic product registered an annual growth rate of 6.9% in 2015. The reading is the weakest since 1990 due to multiple factors, including the complicated international situations, housing market slowdown, softening domestic demand, and weak global recovery, though the authorities worked hard to stimulate the economy. The full-year growth of 6.9%, enviable by Western standards, was China's poorest showing in 25 years.
The big concern, though, is if you take the quarter-on-quarter data of 1.6% and annualize it, then you come up with an annual growth rate, an annualized growth rate of 3.2%. Now, that is dangerous, not because of the digits and all this false precision. It's just because it does herald a very severe slowdown in the Chinese economy, and that's really the point of this. Forget the numbers, look at the trend, and the trend is saying severe slowdown. That's the worrying bit.
And in sports news, Fernando Verdasco sent shockwaves through the Australian Open today by defeating Rafael Nadal to send the former world #1 crashing out of the tournament's opening round. Earlier, we were joined by our sports magazine host, Jonathan Regev.
Speaking of Nadal, he has been going through a very tough year. He's been fighting multiple injuries, and he's been having some hard times. So this is a surprise, not a major surprise. The question, will he bounce back? That's a very big question, because he has been trying to do it in the past few months. And at the end of 2015, it seems as if he's gaining some momentum. He's now world #5. But first-round defeat in Australia is a big shock. It comes from Fernando Verdasco, a good player, and yet someone who should not, on a regular day, would not beat Nadal. But then again, these things happen. For us Israeli fans, it's a bit funny, because Nadal was supposed to meet Dudi Sela, the Israeli player who qualified to the second round. Now it will be Verdasco against Sela. A bigger chance for Dudi Sela, although we've seen Verdasco, a very good player, if he beats Rafael Nadal.
And finally, in entertainment news, film director Spike Lee and actress Jada Pinkett Smith have said they will not attend the Academy Awards ceremony next month, citing the lack of racial diversity among the nominees in all 4 acting categories for a second year in a row. And these were the latest headlines. Join us again in 20 minutes' time for the latest breaking news. For anything you may have missed, you can check our website, i24news.tv. You can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Thank you for watching.